Hi again, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Everyday Consent. In our meeting needs video a couple weeks ago, I mentioned different methods of meeting our emotional, physical, and sexual needs when sex with another person is not an option. If you haven't seen it, you can click here to have a look. Today I want to spend some time delving more deeply into one of those methods, masturbation. What's great about masturbation is, well, everything, actually. Everything about masturbation is great. I'll go ahead and list some of the reasons. Masturbation can relieve sexual tension, reduce stress, increase blood flow, ease menstrual cramps, induce sleep, strengthen pelvic and anal muscle tone, stimulate endorphin production and improve oxygen metabolism, help boost your immune system, help you learn about your body and how you like to be touched, be a safe, audience-free way to try new things, provide treatment for sexual dysfunction, or just help you work on personal sexual goals like learning to orgasm, learning to have multiple orgasms, learning to delay orgasm, or plenty of goals not related to orgasm. It can be a great way to focus on yourself and have some me time. It can be a lot of fun, and it can help you feel ownership of your sexuality and your body. And it can be a really great way to treat yourself, or rather, touch yourself. And in general, I just think it's important that we recognize and try to appreciate all the different ways that masturbation can play a very useful role in consent. It really is the best way that I've found to reinforce the idea of our own sexual autonomy, and by extension, the sexual autonomy of others, which is huge. Historically, there has unfortunately been a lot of misinformation and stigma surrounding masturbation. Masturbation as a widespread practice has been found in all societies studied, and has been observed in hundreds of animal species. But what is almost as ubiquitous as masturbation over the millennia has been myths about masturbation. Some of these superstitions include the myths that masturbation will cause blindness, hairy palms, acne, hair loss, erectile dysfunction, or infertility. Plenty of people used to be convinced that masturbation would cause all kinds of disease and illness, such as prostate cancer, yeast infections, even spinal cord damage. But a really big theme was linking masturbation to mental illness. Experts of their own times warned that masturbation could lead to psychosis or depression. Freud thought it could lead to neurasthenia, characterized by fatigue, headache, irritability, and emotional disturbance. One of many of Freud's theories that didn't quite stand the test of time. And there's always my personal favorite. Many people wrote about the horrors of post-masturbation disease, whose sufferers have been described as physically weak and consumptive, covered in scabs and blotches, barely capable of movement, instead drooling and blurry-eyed, without memory, incapable of linking two sentences, without reflection, lacking all feeling except that of pain, and generally sounding a lot like the recipient of a lobotomy with a good helping of starvation and bad hygiene thrown in. Not everyone throughout the centuries has been convinced that masturbation is so terrible. There has certainly been debate back and forth over time, and there have been masturbation-positive theories and writings through the eons, as well as all the doom and gloom just mentioned. But it really wasn't until pretty recently that we've had actual scientific research to give us the truth. And sure enough, study after study has debunked each and every one of these misconceptions, and found all of the benefits that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. We found out even more interesting things, like the fact that people in committed relationships actually masturbate more than single people, debunking the myth that masturbation is only for the lonely or antisocial. And we found out just how healthy and normal masturbation really is, that children of all ages masturbate regularly. There's even been evidence that fetuses masturbate in utero. But a lot of this discovery has been pretty recent. The American medical community did not officially pronounce masturbation as normal until the American Medical Association publication, Human Sexuality, came out in 1972. That was only 43 years ago. There are a lot of people alive today that were alive before that happened. So it's not astoundingly surprising that some of these myths, and more importantly, the shame and stigma that come with them, are still floating around today. All of that history and context doesn't just disappear in one day, even in the face of clear evidence. Because a lot of what we learn about sexuality is passed through the generations by way of folk knowledge and our elders' opinions. What that means is there is a whole lot of shame, embarrassment, and confusion around things like sexuality and masturbation that are still floating around in the collective societal psyche, and even in our own individual psyches. That means that even the most sex-positive among us might still have lingering, knee-jerk reactions to something as historically derided as masturbation. And I think it's important to recognize that and to try to work through it. I'm not trying to say, everyone, you have to start masturbating now, or I'll be mad, but I do think it's worth examining whatever hang-ups might exist and why. Because if we can be more conscious about our own feelings, sexualities, and bodies, it can help us to feel more confident and more in control of our actions. Which is pretty helpful when we're trying to improve our ability to find and respect the boundaries of ourselves and our partners. Consent! Yay! We'll explore those potential hang-ups and some possible solutions more in a later video, but for now your assignment is to reflect on this a bit. Think about what you know or have been told about masturbation. Has it included any myths that you later found out to be untrue? Even if you weren't told any myths, what messages did you receive about masturbation, either explicitly or implicitly? Were those messages positive, negative, somewhere in between? What about right now? What are your feelings about masturbation? Where do you think some of those feelings came from? Do they line up well with what you'd expect or like your feelings to be, or do they differ? If you're comfortable doing so, please share some of these feelings in the comments or with me elsewhere. Or maybe strike up a conversation with some friends about this and see what comes of that. Thanks everyone, happy consenting, and I'll see you next week.
That's a very attractive noise.
You are aware I just started filming.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Confucians say, I don't know if I like masturbating.